Hi, this is Dylan Brogan. Before we get to today's conversation, CityCast is serving our listeners to help us make CityCast Madison a better, more useful podcast for you. Please go to citycast.fm/survey and you'll be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card. That's citycast.fm/survey or click the link in our show notes. Today on CityCast Madison. It's Thursday, so we're dishing on Madison's food and drink scene. Ale Asylum was once the largest craft brewery in Madison until it closed its doors last year. But its flagship American Pale Ale Hopalicious has been granted asylum thanks to another Madison craft brewery. And that's not the only local favorite that Karben for Brewing is bringing back. Bianca Martin gets the details from co-founder Ryan Koga. He was at the brewery, so yes, the sounds you hear are beer making in action. Hope you don't mind. It's Thursday, June 1st, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Bianca. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's not every day I get to talk to some of my favorite, well, one of my favorite brew makers. So exciting stuff. You know Brew Hopalicious, the classic Madison hoppy IPA, originally from Ale Asylum, RIP. Why take that on?
I mean, it was equally a good business decision. And the fact that that was such a Madison staple and a Madison brand. They're one of the OG trailblazers for craft brewing in the Madison scene. And, you know, they blazed the way for us. We moved into their original facility. We're still using their original brew house. We even have some of their team is now on our team. So there's just
nice.
A lot of history there. So there was a lot of cool, like kind of Disney story background. But, you know, beyond that, it was a business decision, too, because, you know, craft beers has always gone through its ups and downs, its waves and swells. And so when we opened our doors, there wasn't even 2,000 breweries in the U.S. That was back in 2012. And now there's over 9,000. So competition is different. Market forces are different. So, you know, we reached the point where there are places to take Fantasy Factory more, to take Karben 4 beer beyond. But I don't think it makes sense for any brewery to really go past your surrounding states anymore. There's so many breweries and everything's getting hyper local and very like small brew pub focus. That's where most of the growth has been in the past 5 years. So for us, knowing that K4 probably is not going to grow too much further just naturally, we needed to make sure that our tanks were full and that our revenue model as a business, our financial model was solvent. So starting about 2 years ago, two and a half years ago, we started taking on some contract brewing clients, and that has just really expanded. And so last year, by the end of summer, fall, you know, we're looking at the next year, trying to project out our financials and revenue models and saying, you know, hey, we really need this much more. We need to do this. We need to look at that. We need to look at, you know, soda stuff and NA and CBD, THC, whatever, everything else.
Diversifying the portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah. And we were actually one of the people we had put in a bid when Ale Asylum when it did its first auction, when it was just looking for a new owner, a new buyer. We were one of the people who put a bid on that. And so we just kind of watched that happen, and then it all kind of, you know, it fell apart or didn't come to fruition for various reasons. So then we actually bought a few pieces of the equipment on the Ale Asylum auction when all the physical assets were being sold. While I was picking up a tank that we had bought from the auction, I noticed that there were like 13, 14 pallets of unfilled Hopalicious 12-ounce cans pre-printed, and they didn't sell in the auction. And I thought, wait a second, I wonder if we could just brew beer for them to keep the brand going, you know, like let's get some fresh Hopalicious out there. We got space in our schedule.
The fountain of youth.
We got the canning line. Let's go. Here's the cans. Let's make it happen. And then we discovered that they were still in some, they were still kind of open to selling the IP, and ended up putting something together and kind of brought Ale Asylum home, brought Hopalicious home. If we hadn't had the support or the feeling that we would have good support for bringing it back, then we wouldn't have made the play. But I think we felt in our hearts that it was a very Madison-esque type of story.
Yeah.
With an excellent, you know, it's beer that shouldn't die, brands that shouldn't die. in a city that doesn't know how to give up ever, right? Like this is a great place for hometown stories.
Never can say goodbye, you know.
We even were using the same distributor as Ale Asylum was the whole time too. So even getting the beer out in the sales channels, all that was just a very natural fit. And it's great to have it on board. It's
happening. And it's been almost 2 months since you announced the deal. Any surprises since then?
Not like overly surprising. I mean, it's just been good. You know, I think if it would have fallen flat in its face, that would have been like the surprise. But the surprise, we had an expectation there would be a good response. There was a good response. We just relaunched Ambergeddon about a week ago.
Love Ambergeddon.
And watching the sales, like that thing's starting to pull really hard. So we're starting to fit in new batches of that. We have Unshadowed in the fermenter right now.
Okay.
The Hefeweizen. We have Plush Crush is in the brewing schedule for like a week from now or so. So that's coming up. And then
these are iconic local beers.
Yep. Yeah. And then we'll have Bedlam will come back at the end of the year, more Bedlam. Towards when it's Bedlam was the number one requested brand when we put out the feelers to, through social media and whatever else. Like, what do you want to see?
Thank you, public that reached out.
Right. And so we're excited. We're excited for that one too.
Yeah.
And that'll be more towards the end of the year. And then we'll have Octillion for Oktoberfest time.
Okay. So has there been any changes to the Hopalicious recipe, or is it like what it was?
It's what it was. We started with what it was. Joe Waltz is our quality manager and R&D director, and he worked at Ale Asylum for years and was their quality guy and other things.
That certainly helps with continuity.
Yeah, exactly. So like when we thought we were getting close, I said, hey, Joe, do you think we can write that recipe up on here so I can just kind of look at it? And he's like, oh, it's already on the server. I already did it,
And so you said that Ale Asylum blazed a trail for you. What did you learn from them, like specifically that you're carrying on? Like you're talking about you have some of the, equipment. You've got some of the staff. You're keeping the recipes. Are there other things that you're carrying on that was Ale Asylum?
In talking with Dean and Otto and everyone else kind of involved there was just this talk about quality. Quality.
Dean Coffey, the co-founder.
Correct. Yep. There wasn't anything that's been done here that's just been shoot from the hip. Just, this is my ego. I know what's best for their brand. Our whole point was to just respect it. Just respect what it was. It kicked ass on its own. We didn't need to do anything but not mess it up, to bring it back, to respect it, keep it there. Probably the main hurdle we've been going through with Hopalicious is it's got a lot of delicious Cascade dry hopping in it, but then all of a sudden you start to see this thing called hop creep. So we're trying to deal with hop creep and try to bring back the original spirit and make sure that things are delicious. But
well, innovation and learning new things is always going to be a part of it, and figuring out how to make it good. But it's so lovely to hear you're trying to honor the spirit of what Hopalicious has been, and I can't help but think of it's like passing on the way of the Jedi, like upholding the Jedi order.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. But he does nail on the head. The way I really thought about it when we were talking with Dean and Otto was, for me, beer, the most important function beer performs is to bring people together, to give somebody a reason to celebrate or be a part of that. So for many people, for 17 years, Ale Asylum was the way that they celebrated. It was the beer. It was a part of their life. They made it a part of their life story, a part of their habits. And so all we're trying to do is to say, we got you guys. Like if that was a part of you and then that went away, now we're just trying to bring it back to right where it was.
Totally.
It helps us as a business, be viable for sure. But then there is that part of it, and that's where the respect and the carrying the torch, the passing on of the Jedi training that's exactly what it is.
Hey, CityCast Madison, it's Michael Ziviak. While CityCast Madison works hard every day to connect you with the stories that matter most, I'm working in the background making sure that our listeners are connecting with the best that Madison has to offer. So what does that look like? It means meeting with the people who make Madison what it is. The business owners, the stakeholders, the decision makers. The Madisonians who book the concerts you enjoy, the exhibits you can't miss, and who open the new restaurants you have to try. If this sounds like you, let me help you get your message out to the city's best audience with an ad right here on the CityCast Madison podcast. Shoot me an email at ads@citycast.fm and let's connect.
I also want to point out, y'all are no spring chickens. You've been in the game for a decade now. So you have that. We've got to talk about Karben 4 and some of the other stuff you have. And before I talk about the other beers, and you mentioned how you guys are diversifying your portfolio with CBD drinks and sodas and that sort of thing, got to talk about your labels. Your can art is out of this world. Got gun-toting cats riding fire-breathing unicorns, for example, on Fantasy Factory. How did that come about?
That's a great question. Our artist is Jason Heiser. He's done video game design and a lot of digital art.
I was going to say, it's like this pixelated video game rainbow landscape.
Yeah.
But almost like 1776 Revolutionary War vibes. Like there's
exactly, yeah.
It's powerful.
If you've seen all the like fantastical presidential portraits, with like Reagan riding a Raptor with a Mac 10, and like Kennedy riding a robot horse on the moon, that's all Jason's art. And so he's had his art like stolen from him quite a bit, copied and whatever else. So the one that's the Fantasy Factory image is actually a painting he did called "Welcome to the Internet." I think when he painted it, he was working as an overnight security guard. So he would bring his his MacBook to work and draw while he was being a security guard. And that one, I think he just took like the top 10 trending things on the internet and saw if he could put them all into one cohesive painting. And
he did it.
Right. So when we knew we had to put our beer into packaging, we were looking for all kinds of stuff. We had a couple designs that we got pretty close to being finished, and then just said, you know what, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And so one night late, I was Googling like laser kitties or whatever it was, and I found the Welcome to the Internet thing, and I thought, oh, my brain melted. Like that was it. That was it. So I brought it into my partners the next day, and everybody agreed.
You're just going to roll on over that you were Googling laser kitties?
Yep. I'll just put it out there. I was looking for anything, for any kind of inspiration, any kind of whatever.
I love it.
Because we kept talking about this feel and this colors and this and this, that, but we couldn't like bring it all together cohesively. And that was the first time I thought, yeah, that's it. It's bright, it's crazy, but it makes sense somehow.
Yeah, that was a great choice. And I wanted to talk about quickly beer names because go for it. Is it an arms race to come up with new names? Like they get wild, like Terror of Demons, Threat Level.
Yeah, we have a list. We have a long list of things that'll probably never see the light of day that are just really stupid. But
oh my gosh, I want to see that list.
If we hear something or think of something or somebody says something stupid, we add it to the list. And then sometimes the list is just a place of inspiration that takes us somewhere else. So when we launched, we knew Night Call and Block Party. Fantasy Factory, we actually figured out when we brewed it. That's when we came up with that name. We used to call our warehouse like Fantasy Factory. And then we thought, oh, this is a cool name and it goes with the image and let's just do this. So that was that.
That's a great name. Can you share a couple of the failed names?
Probably the one that we always laugh about inside is Dog Dick Red, but that's pretty gross. So
okay, 10-4.
There's other ones like Blumpkin. There's just a lot of like fart and poop jokes probably are the worst ones.
Got it. Now that it's finally getting warm, like what are some of your favorite summer beers?
Pilsners, fruited sour, maybe like a really light crisp IPA or APA. I actually have been really digging on Hopalicious, not just because we bought it, but...
Hey, that's righteous. And I also saw that you guys switched from bottles to cans, which feels like it would make, paddling trips easier. Is that why you did that?
Yeah, So we started off in the bottles, and that was fine. We used to send tankers. When we first started doing cans, a Fantasy Factory would send it up in a tanker up to Stevens Point to get canned. And then when that gained some traction, we said, okay, let's see if we can just get our own small canning machine. And we did. We added it to our line, and it would do about 38 to 40 cans a minute, maybe. And then at the beginning of last year, we kind of saw the writing on the wall that if we ever wanted to automate anything, because we were hand packing everything, hand decal, hand everything, 12 packs, 24 packs, 6 pack, everything you had from us for like the last 9 years has been completely hand packed.
Well, thank you, but right, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, right. So we knew we wanted to add some automation, but we neither had the bankroll nor the square footage to accommodate both cans and bottles for automation because they are not the same machinery. So we decided to go with cans because it seemed like the industry was going there anyway. Cans, unlike bottles, totally seal out oxygen, where bottle caps can actually have some ingress of air. And then there are places that cans can go that bottles can't. Stadiums, parks, beaches, things like that. There's plenty of places bottles cannot go. So we thought, you know what? If we have to commit to one or the other, let's commit to the one that doesn't shut down any sales channel in the future that we might want to pursue.
That makes good sense.
And I already had like 15, 16 years of dealing with broken glass shards on packaging lines, and I had enough of that crap. So cans have their own problems for sure, but we're learning those problems now. We're getting better at them.
Yeah.
Getting better at reducing them.
Totally. Well, I feel like, I should mention you guys also have hard seltzers on your menu, doing Wisco Pop, CBD drinks, lots of things. You have a tap room with events. The tap room's over by the airport, and trivia on Thursdays, I hear. And you do a lot of pop-up events. The Parks on Tap fundraisers where you can drink in the park and have a nice time. Mm-hmm. So you're up to so much. Where do you want to grow the business? Like, what's next? Looking to the future, you got Hopalicious. I heard you say local earlier. Focusing on the local scene. What's next?
Yeah, I think for us the next thing is probably restabilizing our taproom business. I think Madison's been pretty slow compared to many areas, not only across Wisconsin but across like many different metro areas across, I think, the nation. Madison's been relatively slow to, go back out to bars, restaurants, tap rooms, but kind of getting the pulse back into our tap room solidly is a number one focus for us. Trying to rebuild our food options and our menus because of that is a big part of it. We had Patty's was in residence as a food truck all winter, and that was fantastic because they're really good food. But they come in now and they set up every Thursday for trivia night, which is great. We have pizzas now, so we get these personal pizzas from Sal's Tomato Pies, so we can make pizza. So we're trying to rebuild it. Before COVID, we had a full kitchen staff, which was only 2 or 3 people, but it was a lot of work, and we put out a lot of good food over the years, things that we're really proud of. But that was a lot of work over time, and without as much foot traffic coming back in, we just can't justify kind of really doubling down on the kitchen part.
Sure.
So we're trying to do what we can to rebuild so we're a food option again. We keep putting money into the patio to make it more welcoming, new furniture, new concrete, new whatever, all the stuff. Trying to have some events here. So that's part number one.
Well, judging by the cans, or the Fantasy Factory can at the very least, I'm sure it's a party.
Yeah, it's always a party.
It's so exciting to hear about what you're up to and, holding on to the force and passing and taking it forward. Ryan, Thank you so much for joining us and telling us what you've been up to at Karben 4.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
That was Ryan Koga, co-founder of Karben 4 Brewing, speaking with CityCast Madison host Bianca Martin. You can find Karben 4 at the Lower Yahara River Trail trailhead this Saturday afternoon. It's a benefit for Dane County Parks. And here's what else Madison's talking about. No Bull, the Cows on the Concourse, returns to the Capitol Square this Saturday, June 3rd, during the Dane County Farmers Market. The annual tradition is a chance to meet some local dairy cows in a downtown setting. It's totally free, and of course there will be hot grilled cheese sandwiches. This year's theme is Who Let the Cows Out? Is anyone else feeling some deja vu? In other news, the feds want some of their money back. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers is preparing to return close to $500 million in unspent pandemic aid to the U.S. Treasury. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, that is part of the deal between President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to raise the nation's debt ceiling. The agreement calls for clawing back $30 billion in pandemic relief for states and local governments previously allocated by Congress. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Dylan Brogan. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this podcast with someone who isn't playing chicken with the full faith and credit of the U.S. government? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then. Who let the cows out? Moo, moo, moo. There's a great documentary about that whole song. It turns out like 7 people wrote it independently of each other over 30 years. It's crazy. Like, they just keep going back. It's like, oh, you thought it was written in 1999. Well, it's actually 1993. Well, actually, it was 1972. It's pretty cool.